Surely at some point in your life, you have wanted to develop a new habit or eliminate an addiction. Surely at some point you have had a strong desire to change things, to start improving, to do the right thing. But as you may have realized, this is much harder to do than it seems. We have all faced the failure of not being able to achieve our goals at some point. There is a fundamental part of the process of becoming a better person that is difficult for anyone to achieve, and that fundamental part is discipline. How many times have you made a plan and committed to your goal, only to stop after a few days and give in to your impulses and go back to your old self? As I said, it's something that has happened to all of us at some point. But the fact that it's something that normalizing mediocrity only invites us to be mediocre, to conform, to lose the will to challenge ourselves in life, and ultimately to lose the possibility of becoming the best version of ourselves. Let me say that if you cannot overcome your addictions, change your habits, or achieve your goals, you probably lack discipline. You lack discipline? Discipline is a person's ability to overcome their short-term desires. Short-term desires are the enemy of changing habits. So in order to change habits, we need to develop our discipline. Discipline is simply the act of doing what you have to do, when you have to do it, even when you don't want to. In this video, I will explain why discipline is so important for us to become better at what we set out to do. Better at what we set out to do. We'll also talk about why it's getting harder and harder to be disciplined, and I'll give you some tips on how to work on your discipline before we get started. I'd love it if you liked the video. If you don't want to miss any of the videos, subscribe and turn on the Tinkerbell. We need to practice self-introspection, self-control, responsibility, and objectivity, all of which help us to live with virtue and lead a full and happy life. And to live with virtue, the most basic tool is discipline. Discipline allows us to be free because it gives us the ability to choose. In the modern world, people are slaves to their desires. Those who live as slaves to their desires. The desires will probably never realize this because they think they are free because they always do what comes to them, even though this isn't true. Being free doesn't mean doing what you want all the time. True freedom is having the ability to choose who you think is freer. A lazy person who always wakes up late and never fulfills their obligations, or someone who wakes up early and always fulfills their responsibilities. At first glance, it may seem that the lazy person is freer because he does what he wants. However, the lazy person has no choice because he will never be able to live a life other than the one he has. They live as slaves to their laziness, while the disciplined person who wakes up early and fulfills his responsibilities has a choice to be lazy or responsible. In fact, this choice is available every morning of life. The disciplined person, in his freedom of choice, chooses to act with discipline because he knows it's the right thing to do. That's what true freedom is. Being able to choose to be responsible when you have to be, and to choose fun and pleasure when you have fulfilled your responsibilities. The disciplined person lives free, while the lazy person lives as a slave to his laziness, with no possibility of improvement, because he's been tricked into thinking he's free. This example can be applied to any addiction you can think of. Now that we've clarified that discipline makes us freer, we need to understand what it really means to be disciplined. Every time we have a goal, whether it's losing weight, building a business, becoming an elite athlete, or an incredible musician, we have to work to achieve it. But it's not enough to make an effort for one day. Effort requires overcoming our impulses, and the ability to overcome those impulses to act despite the temptation not to is discipline. Being disciplined doesn't mean you'll never feel the urge to relax. It just means you've developed the ability to resist that feeling. The more you resist those kinds of impulses, the better you'll be able to do it in the future. Discipline develops like a muscle. It's also important to understand the difference between discipline and motivation. Motivation is a great fuel to get things done. But it's inconsistent. One day, you wake up motivated, and the next day, that motivation may have disappeared. So a person who relies solely on motivation will never be able to make a change in their life or achieve their goals because, as we saw before, it takes constant effort, not just for a few days, but when you are a disciplined person, the result is different. Motivation can help you get started, but when motivation disappears, discipline takes over. It keeps us moving towards our goal even when we are unmotivated. Do you think that an elite athlete always has the desire to train, or that a successful writer always has the desire to write, or that the most successful entrepreneur always has the desire to work? That is where the disciplined person comes in. The difference between those who are content with little and those who want to improve seems to all of us in the mood to sit on the sofa or lie in bed, but not everyone has the ability to overcome this desire. And this is where the disciplined have an advantage over others, and why in the modern world there are so many people without discipline. Why is it becoming so difficult to be disciplined nowadays? This happens because life is becoming easier and easier when your survival is at stake. But when life becomes easy, two conditions arise that make it difficult to cultivate discipline. The first condition is temptation. We're surrounded by more sources of temptation and distraction than ever before. What makes it increasingly difficult to overcome our desires? Things like television or social media compete for our attention. We have the ability to do whatever we want over the internet. Never before have people had so many different ways to distract themselves and not work. I'm not saying that all these things are bad, but it's up to you to learn how to manage the time we devote to them. The second condition is lack of resistance. An easier life also gives us fewer opportunities to practice discipline. As I've said before, discipline is like a muscle, and it atrophies if you don't use it. In the modern world, you don't have to be disciplined to survive. Amazon gives us next-day delivery. Netflix allows us to watch whatever we want, whenever we want. Social media gives us doses of dopamine when we need it, and we can order food that arrives at our door. We order food that arrives at our house in 30 minutes. The list is endless, as I mentioned in my video on the art of being disciplined. Instant gratification is slowly eliminating the opportunities for us to practice discipline. We are becoming impatient. Our attention span is diminishing. There is a quote by Seneca that I like very much, as it reflects well how an easier life takes away the opportunities to be disciplined. There is no one less fortunate than the man who has forgotten diversity, for he has no opportunity to be tested. Unfortunately, the world is eliminating sources of resistance that are necessary to create discipline. We must understand that comfort is not something bad for the story, it's just a tool, and this tool can be used for good or evil. Use comfort for resting after fulfilling our responsibilities, something I even encourage and enjoy. The problem is excessive comfort that atrophies our discipline. Everyone likes to sit on the couch and rest, but discipline is uncomfortable. Resting after fulfilling our responsibilities is a good thing, something I even encourage and enjoy. The problem arises with excessive comfort that atrophies our discipline. Everyone likes to sit on the sofa and rest, but discipline is uncomfortable. It's not pleasant because it causes us suffering, but this discomfort is the catalyst for growth. It gives us a sense of development, achievement, and conquest. It shows us the limits of our capacity and allows us to overcome them. So how do we build discipline? The first step to being disciplined is to find a purpose, to define a goal that you want to fulfill. As I mentioned before, discipline is like a muscle, and therefore needs to be trained in the same way. In order for our discipline to grow, we need to create uncomfortable situations in our lives to practice it. Just like when you train a muscle, you don't start by trying to lift 300 pounds. Muscle. You don't start by trying to lift 300 pounds on the first day, you start with light weight. The same happens with discipline. We need to start with small challenges, small goals that we want to accomplish. Think of things in your life that are uncomfortable for you, but that you are capable of doing. Set tasks that you are not able to accomplish with your current level of discipline is a waste of time. Like this: how to set goals that you can accomplish effortlessly. Overcoming these uncomfortable little tasks will help build your discipline little by little, and soon you will be able to challenge yourself with more difficult goals. Each goal accomplished is a repetition we do to strengthen our discipline muscle. Here are some ideas of goals you can set for yourself to work on. Discipline. Try exercising. Regular exercise, such as running a certain number of days a week or going to the gym, is not only healthy, it will also make you feel satisfied and work on your discipline. Participate in sporting events in your city. Look for sporting events in your city and use them as a challenge to improve yourself and work on your discipline. For example, participate in a martial arts competition. Few sports work on discipline as much as martial arts. Martial arts also get you in shape and teach you how to defend yourself. Take up a new hobby, such as cooking, sewing, or gardening. Developing new passions and hobbies is perfect for practicing perseverance and putting effort into a task that enriches you as a person. Build something. Building something is another activity that is perfect for working on patience, effort, and discipline. Think of a project that excites you and try to complete it. Get up early. Getting up at the crack of dawn is a difficult task for many, which makes it the perfect task for working on discipline. You don't have to get up very early all at once, just start slowly. I hope this video helps you become more disciplined, or at least inspires you to push yourself. Finally, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel for more enriching content.